This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Chill. We're here. We had a slight internet issue at the beginning of the program. Better a couple minutes late than never. What's going on? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. I'm Andrew Hustler Paterson. Michael Remis, the CTO, is working a little overtime this morning, but we are good to go. And we have a game day tonight at Canada Life Centre. First time I've been able to say that. Jets on the ice tonight. Pretty good lineup for Winnipeg. Set to go at it tonight against the Edmonton Oilers in preseason action. Remo and I will actually be at the game tonight. Maybe we'll see you out there, but we've got lots to talk about. We will get to tonight's lineup, what we are expecting to see in tonight's exhibition game in just a second. We'll also bring on Tim Campbell from NHL.com to discuss the Winnipeg Jets situation, as well as some of the other Western Canadian teams as we get closer to dropping the puck for real on the NHL regular season. And coming up before Tim, we're going to welcome in ice forward Connor McClennon, who is back after finishing his first NHL training camp with the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll find out what that was like, as well as look ahead to the big ice home opener on Saturday against the Brandon Wheat Kings. And we'll have an opportunity for those of you that are with us live on YouTube to win a pair of tickets for the game. As always, this show doesn't happen without our sponsors. A big thank you to Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Princess Auto, our newest sponsor, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Canadian Club, Assiniboia Downs, and our friends at Coolbet Canada. I did see the chat as we were waiting to go on. Some great comedy in there, folks. And no, I was not running, speaking of Coolbet, because we took a beating last night on the Elks faceplant in Ottawa and the Blue Jays. But we'll be back at it tonight, and we'll get to some lines a little bit later on. Let's get Remis in here. A stressed Michael Remis, who now is breathing easier now that we're back on the air and getting going with another edition of WST. What's good, dude?
I mean, we're here, but as people have noted in the chat, you're looking a little blurry. Not quite 8-bit, but the audio sounds good. That's what's more important. We're actually getting a ton more podcast downloads than YouTube views lately on our shows, so that I'm okay with. But I don't know. So what happened was we went to start the show, and I noticed I'm not getting my full internet what I'm paying my provider for, and you can guess which provider I have. It's one of the two.
Not the one I used to work for.
I'm not gonna name names. I'll say it's one of the two, and I'm not getting what I'm paying for. So we're here. It's working. Welcome everyone, and yeah, it is a Jets game day at the Canada Life Centre. So looking forward to it.
As I mentioned, we've got lots to get to, both on the Winnipeg Jets as well as the Edmonton Oilers in this game tonight. We'll also talk ice. Connor McClennon's going to come by. Tim Campbell coming up a little bit later on. And we will have to get to what happened last night in the Canadian Football League. The Elks, I still can't believe it. You want to talk anger, folks? You should have heard some of the Elks fans popping into my guy Dustin Nielsen's show this morning on TSN 1260 in Edmonton. Not happy at all. And, of course, a very disappointing night for the Toronto Blue Jays, which we'll get to all of that coming up in a few minutes. But Remo, I can't wait to get back to the rink tonight. Of course, I was out of town for the game on Sunday, missed the first preseason game, but we're going to be back at it. And I'll tell you what, fans that are attending the game tonight are going to see a good portion of the Jets' projected starting lineup for the season, including Connor, Scheifele, and Wheeler. No Ehlers Dubois line or Andrew Kopp tonight, but we will see Adam Lowry with Paul Stastny and Christian Vesalainen. And I know a lot of people are going to be very excited to see Cole Perfetti get another crack in preseason action tonight.
Yeah, here's Mike McIntyre tweeting out the lines. I looked at him, so it seems like Edmonton played yesterday, and they are rocking their like B squad because I know McDavid tore up Seattle. They got a taste of number 97 for the first time, and then we got tonight, yeah, as you said, Connor Shafley-Wheeler, Stasny, Lowry, Vesalainen, Harkins, Perfetti, Svechnikov, and this is the one. All those guys played last game, and we'll be getting another look. And then we also have Isemont, Gustafsson, Pognansky down there on the bottom. Morrissey, Schmidt, Heinola, DeMello, Stanley, Kovacevic. So again, Johnny Kovacevic getting another game. Hellebuck and net. We did have some power play lines as well, and I can pull those up shortly. But it seems like, they want to get another good look at Cole Perfetti, and we'll certainly get to do that. So
yeah, I mean, great chance for Perfetti to continue his strong camp and show the fans in Winnipeg what he brings to the table. Those power play units, Billick tweeted them out. PP1, Connor Shifley-Wheeler, Stastny, and Josh Morrissey. And then a second unit of Vesalainen, Harkins, Perfetti, Schmidt, and Ville Heinola. And was noted that Morrissey and Schmidt were rotating. So I think we'll see the looks with both of those guys with the power play units, obviously depending on how many chances the Winnipeg Jets get coming up tonight. Oilers, for that matter, certainly not bringing a star-studded lineup to tonight's game. You've got Fogle, McLeod, and Cassian as the top line. Tyler Benson, who from all accounts is really up against it in his quest to earn a spot on the roster. He'll be there with Marody and Griffith, Esposito, Malone, and Colton Sevier. And Safin, Adam Cracknell there. Didn't realize that he had signed with the Edmonton, and Bourgault. A bunch of these guys, I'm not too sure who they are, to be perfectly honest. Slater Cuckoo, Evan Bouchard, that'll be interesting. And of course, if you forgot, Cody Cece's now an Edmonton Oiler. He will be in the lineup tonight. No Koskinen, no Mike Smith. It'll be Konovalov and Skinner as the goaltenders for Edmonton. So certainly a more veteran-laden lineup for the home team tonight, Reem.
Yeah, I know William Lageson, Huss. I have his Young Guns. I pulled it out of a box of Series 2. So I'm cheering for number 84, William Lageson. So yeah, the Oilers putting their B squad on here. I guess Evan Bouchard, we'll get a look at him. Cassian, I know Dustin Nielsen's daughter will be happy that he's getting in game action.
Yep.
But you looked at that lineup, and I know you rushed over to Coolbet to check the lines.
I was waiting lines, and I know I said there's nothing more degen than betting on preseason hockey, but when I saw the Jets lineup and what the Oilers were bringing, I reversed that course. Jets are plus 130 to win by 2 tonight, just so you know. We'll get to Coolbet Lines a little bit later on. All right. As I mentioned, we are going to be talking much more Jets training camp with Tim Campbell a little bit later on. I do want to get to that Elks game last night. Shout out to Paul Appelese, big win. If only every game for Ottawa could be against Edmonton this year. And we'll also talk about the Jays. Very, very tough loss last night. But let's get right to it because I think Connor McClennon is ready to go. Looking forward to talking to him about what it was like being out at an NHL training camp and, of course, the upcoming season for the Winnipeg Ice. Before we do that, I do want to thank our friends over at Manitoba Battery for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Donnie and the guys over at on Logan Avenue, 1026 Logan to be exact, are the spot to power whatever you need going into the winter. We're talking automotive batteries, industrial batteries, farm batteries, power sports, sleds, of course, USB backups, UPS backup supply batteries, Metachair batteries as well. And not only will they give you incredible service, they'll give you the best price in town. The same battery that you go in and pay like $120 for at Costco, you'll get it at $89.99 for Manitoba Battery, and they'll deliver it to you for less than it would cost you to go to one of the big box stores. So support local, take care of everything you need, anything to do with batteries. Our boys at Manitoba Battery got you covered. Give them a call, 783-8787, or hit them up online at manitobabattery.com. Of course, hockey season is here, ice season, Jets season, and I know fans are fired up. The best selection of merch from pretty much every league on the planet is waiting for you down at Royal Sports. You want to get geared up for the next Bomber game? Royal Sports. You need a new jersey for the Jets season? Maybe a Nate Schmidt or Brendan Dillon? Royal Sports has got you covered. And of course, if you're a hockey player, the family owned for over 35 years in Winnipeg, hockey experts working at the store, that is the place to get ready to drop the puck on the upcoming season. Pop down and see them, 750 Pembina Highway, our friends at Royal Sports, and you can tell them that the boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And of course, a big shout out to the Nick and Nikki DQ group. I bet Nick and Nikki are working a little OT right now because, my God, we have midsummer type temperatures in Winnipeg. I was out on my deck last night at midnight and it was 23 degrees. Could not believe it. Bottom line, folks, it's blizzard weather still right now in Winnipeg. Get on down to any of the 4 locations, DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, the DQ at Polo Park, or the DQ over on St. Anne's. Grab yourself a blizzard, maybe an Ultimate Grill burger as well. And as always, hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. If you need a DQ cake, they'll get it custom made for you, ready to pick up at any of the 3 Nick and Nikki DQ locations. All right, we'll get back to the Jets and the big stories in a few minutes, but let's welcome in ice forward Connor McClennon to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Connor just coming off his first NHL training camp with the Philadelphia Flyers. Joins us now from Ice HQ. Connor, what's going on? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk. It's great to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
So what was the last few weeks like for you? You spent time out in Philly getting your taste of what the National Hockey League training camp was like. How did it go? What was the experience like for you?
Yeah, definitely pretty cool. Being around the NHL guys, just the whole atmosphere of it. They got a first-class facility there, and I just tried to soak it all in. I was there for a month, and it was really fun.
A month is a long time. What did you do beforehand? Were you working with the team? Was essentially getting prepped. I imagine there was some sort of a rookie or a prospect camp before the main camp. I mean, fill us in on what happened when you got there and how they kind of ease the young players like yourself into the organization.
Yeah, no. So I went there at the start of August or end of August, and development camp was first, and kind of rolled into rookie camp a couple weeks later. So there was a couple weeks where I was just working out, skating on the ice with the NHL guys, and working with the development crew. So it was really fun, and just tried to soak it all in.
Ice forward Connor McClennon with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Ice and Wheaties, get after it with the home opener on Saturday. We'll talk more about that in a minute. What was it like? I imagine you've been working your whole life to get a taste of the National Hockey League, and you get there to camp and you're around some pretty established NHLers. What was it like getting on with the big boys that first time? And was there nerves involved, or did you have to kind of keep focused on just the job at hand?
Yeah, definitely. There's some nerves being on the ice with NHL guys, but when you settle in, it's just hockey. You've been doing it your whole life, and you kind of just got to do what's got you there. So I'm just kind of playing my game and keeping it simple, showing them why they picked me, I guess. And but no, there was definitely some nerves the first couple of drills and whatnot. But once you settle in, it's pretty good.
I have to ask you, going up and, battling against NHLers at times, what stood out to you? Was it the size, the speed, the strength? Was all of it? Did it seem like a big step up from what you'd been normally playing in junior hockey?
Definitely you notice it physically. You're going into corners against men, not 16-year-olds who are still filling into their bodies and whatnot. So that was kind of the biggest thing I took away from it, is just trying to build on my strength to take that next step to the pro game, and just watching how they handle themselves when they're on the ice, how dialed in, I guess, they are the whole time you're out there. And then especially when they're in the gym, just the little things they do, just trying to get better each and every time they're on the ice or in the gym was the biggest takeaway for me.
Was there a welcome to the NHL moment? Did you have your head down at some point in a drill or anything like that, going, whoa, you got to keep that head on a swivel up against the best in the world?
Yeah, definitely. I remember one time in a drill, we were actually just scrimmaging there for a while, and Rasmus risked a line and pinched down. I was like, geez, that's a long stick. Like, that's a 6'6" man out there. And he kind of just stiff armed me, and I almost fell over. So that was kind of my biggest takeaway.
What was AV like? How'd the coaching staff treat you guys, and what did they have for you? I mean, I imagine there was a lot of learning involved. As much as you want to show what you can do, I mean, getting the opportunity to be there around the pros, knowing that that's the ultimate goal. There's a lot that can be gained. How'd the coaching staff handle you right from the get-go?
Yeah, so for rookie camp, their AHL staff kind of ran things, and then when you transition over to main camp, obviously it's their NHL coaches, and obviously they got a lot on their plate. They got a lot to play for this year, so he was focused on the team that he's going to be putting together this year. So, but when you're out there with him, you're just trying to make a good impression, kind of show why you're there, and he hasn't seen me, I guess. There are lots of us young guys, so just kind of showing what to expect and kind of how you play the game, I guess.
Was there, you mentioned Ristolainen. I mean, that is a big dude. I mean, that is an absolute welcome to the NHL moment if you collide with a guy like that. What about the forwards? I mean, there's some pretty talented, established NHLers there, guys like Couturier and Giroux. Did you pick up anything from them, or was it more kind of competing to show that you belong?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a mix of both. You want to stay in battles and show you belong there, obviously. I got to keep building my game, and obviously they're still building theirs. There's lots to learn. You can never be too good. But for me, one guy I had my eye on was Travis Konechny, being a smaller guy, and kind of just seeing how he went about his business and how he handled himself was one guy I definitely had my eye on.
What'd you think of Philly as a city? Did you get to take it in much, or was it all business all the time?
No, it was definitely business quite a bit, but we got to enjoy it a little bit. We went to a Phillies game one day and went downtown. So I actually was there a couple of years ago for a spring hockey tournament, so I knew a little bit about it. Went to the stairs and saw the Rocky Balboa statue, and no, it's a nice city, and the fans are very passionate there. So
yeah. To say the least, passionate fans, certainly. I mean, you went to a Phillies game. I'm not sure if you got up to the link for the Eagles. Philly fans do have a reputation of being psychos. I mean, let's face it. I mean, did you see any of that firsthand while you were there?
Not firsthand, but just showing how passionate they were. It was first day of main camp, and the rink was packed. Like, just in their practice facility, you couldn't have fit another guy in there. So. No, there was definitely a passionate fan crew.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still laughing about Eli Manning's story about a 9-year-old giving him the double bird on Monday Night Football earlier, and only in Philadelphia. But when you're one of their own, they certainly love you, and that will be the goal for you. Overall, I mean, just a totally positive experience. I mean, did you leave feeling more confident about yourself and the path that you're on to hopefully make it to the National Hockey League someday?
Yeah, definitely. I had a good exit interview, and everything went good down those lines. So I was really happy with my camp, and just try to leave your best impression. You want to go there and show them why they picked you, and just leaving my best impression was the most important thing I took out of it. And they seemed happy, but I got a lot to prove this year, and I'm ready to get back at it with the ice.
Ice forward Connor McClennon with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, fresh off of Philadelphia Flyers training camp. Before we talk about this week and the home opener and the upcoming season, I got to ask you about last year. It was a brutal year for everybody. I mean, especially people involved in junior hockey. You managed to get 24 games in the bubble out in Regina. And you personally had a great year. I mean, you're second in scoring behind Peyton Krebs, who I believe won WHL Player of the Year. But what was the entire year like for you? I mean, all of the waiting, what did you do in the meantime? And then how beneficial was it to at least get on the ice for 24 games with your teammates?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of questioning and doubt, I guess, even if we were going to have a season. But credit to the Western League for letting us get in some games. And when we got there, it was a lot of fun. We had a really good group in the bubble, and just trying to enjoy it for those couple months here. We only got to spend a couple months with the guys, so just trying to enjoy each and every day. And definitely in the summer, it was hard to train. You usually get in your routine of when you start skating, when you're going to do your heavy lifting and building your strength. And but no, it was definitely rewarding when we did get to game action and get to play in the bubble. But I'm definitely happy to be back in Winnipeg, settled back in, and really excited to get back at her.
How, Connor, how did you handle the time before you were back with your team? I mean, where were you? What were you doing? Were you able to skate? Were you able to train? And how taxing was it mentally with the uncertainty of even if you were going to get a chance to play legit games last season?
Yeah, it was definitely hard. There was definitely some tough stretches, I guess. I didn't get to finish my 17-year-old year because of injury. I was just about to come back before we got shut down. But no, I spent my whole time back in Wainwright, back home. And we were fortunate enough to be able to skate and train for most of the time. We got shut down there for a little bit, kind of later in November. I got to play a couple of junior A games while the season was on hold, just to kind of keep in game action and try and stay sharp. It was 14 months in between my Western League games. So there's definitely a big gap, but I'm definitely excited to be back here now and get going for sure.
Well, Winnipeg's excited to have you and the boys back. We got the Battle of Manitoba kicking things off, that great rivalry that we were really robbed of. I mean, the first year of the ice, it looked like we were going to have Wheaties and ice in the playoffs, which I think would have been phenomenal for the league here in Manitoba and for both teams. That being said, we're starting it off, but what was it like coming back? I know James Patrick's fired up. Got a good squad right now. I mean, the boys had a lot of questions for you, I'm sure, about how NHL training camp was, and then right back to work.
Yeah, for sure. I'm getting back on the ice here the first couple days. The energy is high. We have a lot of expectations to have a good season, but I guess we're just focused on these first two games against the Wheaties. Obviously, they're our arch nemesis. So big 4 points here to start the year, and I'm just going to try and build off that.
I've got to ask you, I mean, everyone's optimistic at the start, but it does seem like there's some real solid talent on this squad. I mean, even with Peyton Krebs presumably heading to the National Hockey League, I mean, Carson Lambos, a first-round pick. He just came back from Wild Camp. You coming back from Flyers Camp. What's the feeling around the ice, and what are the expectations in the room for what you guys might be able to achieve this year?
Yeah, definitely. There's some high expectations for us to have a good season. We're a really tight knit group. There's a bunch of core guys that have been together since kind of day one here in Winnipeg. So, just trying to enjoy it though. You don't want to put too much pressure on yourselves to overdo it. And, I think just taking it day by day is going to be the biggest thing for us to stay focused and stay at the task at hand. But, no, we definitely got a lot of talent. Obviously with Lambo, and then you got Sav and Geeks with their draft years. So, no, it's definitely going to be a fun year, and I'm just going to enjoy it.
I got to tell you, Connor, you're getting a lot of love here in the chat today. You've made a lot of fans in fast time here in Winnipeg. Patrolman Pete said you're a total gentleman, too. We'll never forget how kind he was to my Timbits hockey-playing son who loves the ice, too. What a beauty. Managed to have a good time here in Winnipeg so far, and, certainly what's happening on the ice is great, but got a lot of fans here already.
Yeah, I love to hear that.
Let's talk about this opening of the season going in. You mentioned starting off against the Wheaties. I can't imagine there'd be a better way to begin the season with a couple wins against your arch rivals.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously going to Brandon first. It's going to be a huge first game, I guess, to get off on the right foot, and we're just preparing like it's any other game. But obviously, anytime you play the Wheat Kings, there's a little more to it. Just focusing on Friday's game, and hopefully we walk out of there with 2 points, and then can focus on Saturday for the first game back here in Winnipeg.
Of course, it's a big year for you. You've got a chance to, get your feet wet playing against the big boys in the National Hockey League and training camp. You're now here starting the ice season. What are the goals for you this year personally? And might one be wearing a Canadian jersey in and around Christmas time?
Yeah, definitely. Going to the summer camp there this August, and no, that's definitely a big goal for me. Get off to a good start here, and kind of just show them what I'm made of, I guess. That'd be a huge honor, especially here in Canada. So try not to look too far ahead, but I think just if I take it day by day and game by game, I think that'll set me up for the most success.
Well, I'll tell you what, it all starts with this weekend, getting back on the ice. I know, Manitoba fans, whether they're out in Westman supporting the Wheaties or here in the Peg supporting the ice, I think everyone just happy that it looks like this season is going to be a go, and you and your teammates can get back to doing what you do and continuing the path, hopefully, that ends in the National Hockey League. But first things first, we got the Battle of Manitoba going on this weekend. Connor, this was an awesome visit for you. We'll definitely have to do it again. People are loving you in the chat. Everyone wishes you and the Ice best of luck this weekend in the upcoming season. And you're awesome. This certainly won't be the last time we have you on the program.
Perfect. Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me.
Great stuff. There he is, Connor McClennon. Follow him on Twitter at McClennon94. And, to finish this up, we do have some tickets to give away. Man, he was an awesome interview. Right now, Remis, I believe we're going to do what we did yesterday, the exclamation mark tickets in the chat.
Yes, that should be working now. I just initiated the giveaway. I think there'll be a message, exclamation mark tickets in the chat. And I don't know, we can do it, hand them out at the end of the show. There we go. Yeah, it's in there.
Sounds good. Okay, so there you go, folks. If you're in Winnipeg and you would like to go to the game, we've got a pair of tickets from the Ice to give away. So just simply go into the YouTube chat and type exclamation mark tickets. And we'll add you in. At the end, it will randomly pick someone for a winner. Shout out to Jeff Kabilis, one of the OGs of Winnipeg Sports Talk, who was the winner yesterday. Might have a little bit of a good WST contingent out there on Saturday night. Great stuff with Connor McClennon. Best of luck to the Ice, and thanks to our pal Brian Munns for helping us set all that up. For more information on the Ice season tickets, ticket packages, head on over to the website at winnipegice.ca. All right, do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto. I saw Tracy Kraniak said it's her favorite store, was very excited that they're on board with us. Listen, Princess Auto, an incredible community member. We are so appreciative to have them on board with us. Every day going forward. And we'll also, for you curling fans, do once a week a little bit of a curling report brought to you by Princess Auto. Had a great way to kick it off yesterday with Reed Carruthers. What a beauty he is. Reed's out today to Red Deer for a mixed qualifying event. But both Princess Auto supporting Mike McEwen's team and Jen Jones' teams. And who knows, maybe both of those teams could be heading to the Olympics. They both qualified for the trials, which will be coming up a little bit later on in November. But if you're not familiar with Princess Auto, you probably should be. You'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around, plus items from the new farm category. They pride themselves on helping you create ideas in your head, whether for your shop, worksite, or home. You know you love finding the right tools and equipment to build or repair things yourself. Shop all the great deals at Princess Auto 24 hours a day at princessauto.com, or come see them at one of their 2 Winnipeg locations. I mentioned that this is a great time for a blizzard. It's also a great time to maybe hit a patio, and no better place to do that than down at Little Brown Jug on William Avenue. Patio will still be going right now. Of course, the tap room's open. They've got all that incredible 1919, and that deal is still on right now. If you want to, maintain that taste of summer, the summer variety pack on sale now at the tap room and online. And with every summer variety pack you pick up, you'll get a $5 gift certificate for your next purchase, a Little Brown Jug. And if you want to get 4 of them, you'll get 4 GCs. It's all there, littlebrownjug.ca, or pop down and see them in person on William Avenue. Today might be a great day to do exactly that. And I also want to give a shout out to our friends at Boston Pizza. This is a great sports week. Last night, hit up the BP. We had the Blue Jays on. We had the Elks game on. We'll get to both of those in a minute. But BP, they know how it's done when it comes to be a great spot to get together with friends to watch sports. They got the great wings, the pizza, the schooners, and the big game on all the screens. Whether it's tonight for the Jets game, tomorrow for the Big Cat Bowl between the Jags and Bengals, Bombers on Friday night, Boston Pizza, always the place to go to gather with friends for the big game. And of course, you can always order online at bostonpizza.com. All right, Remo, we will get back to the hockey and the Winnipeg Jets with Tim Campbell in a few minutes. We are seeing a lot of people entering for the tickets. Good luck to everybody. And but let's get to last night. Where do you want to start, the CFL or the Blue Jays? Because we've got lots to talk about on both games.
Yeah, that's a good one. I guess we could start. You want to start at the CFL? Tuesday night football? And someone said the bonus of Tuesday, you do have football every day of the week now. We have football, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no Wednesday, but then you got Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and Sunday. So maybe I could get behind Tuesday night football from now on.
I gotta say, I loved it. And again, I was mostly locked in on the Blue Jays last night. That was such a tense game, absolute playoff atmosphere. But it was pretty hard to keep your eyes off what was happening in Ottawa. And I mean, before we knew it, it was 14-0 for the Redblacks. And Edmonton did make a couple of pushes later on in the game, but just simply didn't get it done. And man, Remo, you can imagine in Edmonton, this is being referred to as one of the most embarrassing losses that the organization or franchise has had in maybe a decade. The game one of the regular season was a bizarre game. It turned on the pick six. The Elks, I think, sort of got a mulligan for that one. But this loss last night, and, I know Taylor Cornelius was in. He'd already played. The Redblacks had two quarterbacks that had never seen the field in the Canadian Football League. And that's part of the reason why I bet at Coolbet 95% of the money was on Edmonton. Maybe that's a sign to go the other way. Regardless, an absolutely devastating loss for Edmonton, which really puts their playoff hopes in peril in a very tough Western Division. And on the other side of things, you just had to feel good for Paul Appelese and the guys in Ottawa to get that victory. But maybe the people I think I felt the most for, Reem, was the Ottawa fans. They still support that team very well. And I mentioned just how miserable everybody looked when they were getting their asses kicked by Hamilton last week in the middle of that monsoon. It looked like it was going to be as miserable a season as possible. At least the fans in Ottawa got to see a win on home turf. No one was expecting it. They haven't lost to anyone in the league by less than 10 points, but now they've got 2 wins over the Edmonton Elks.
Yeah, this is really bad for Edmonton. And I think we're kind of, this year, we've underestimated how good guys making their first pro start can be. I remember Jake Mayer came in, we're like, oh, this guy's never started in the CFL before. He's going to have a rough go. And he went out and won and shocked anyone. And I had the pleasure of betting against him. And it was yesterday as well. Ottawa. Okay, they're starting a guy, Caleb. Sorry, what's his name again? He's never started in the CFL before. They're missing Nichols and Davis. It's going to be a rough one for him. And we all hammered Edmonton and the -6.5, and it went up to like -8. And he came in, he showed he could actually throw the ball downfield. And on the flip side, I think we totally forgot, hey, Taylor Cornelius, yeah, he's played in the CFL, and yeah, he might be able to throw it pretty far, but the guy also makes a lot of mistakes, and we saw that yesterday. So, I think maybe these teams are closer than we think. Guys who are CFL quarterbacks have had success elsewhere, leading them that path, and you can come in and play well, and maybe the next time a quarterback comes in who hasn't, started a game before, maybe we should bet on the underdog at that point, because I've been burned here twice, and I know a lot of people were very, very all in on Edmonton.
I got host. Not only that, I was talking to Aaron Korolnek. There were a lot of guys that had parlayed a bunch of NFL favorites with the Elks just to win the game. It was probably like -250 or -300, something like that. Like one of those names. Oh, I'm just gonna top the parlay up a little bit, and then you get the steel toe to the groin, figuratively, of course, from it. But yeah, Caleb Evans, didn't even get to 200 yards, but he was 15 of 22.
Yeah.
Passed for 3 touchdowns, 191, ran for 59 yards, and I think that was a real key part of the offensive attack. And he didn't throw a pick, did not make a mistake. And big night for our old pal Timothy Flanders as well, who got into the end zone, Reem.
Yeah, Timothy Flanders. So I was a big fan of his when he was here. He was always great, I thought, at catching passes, and also had great hair. But there he was yesterday, rushing 14 carries, 45 yards. And he had 2 catches for 16 yards on 3 attempts. The one guy, and first of all, welcome back Kenny Stafford against his former team. 44 yards and a touchdown in his return to the CFL. The one guy I hear everyone talking about on Ottawa is this Devontae Dedmon, who had another punt return touchdown. He had 3 kick returns for total 99 yards. This guy makes stuff happen, and they got to find a way to get him the ball when they're on offense, not just returning kicks, because another game in a row where he is one of their main sources of offense. But I never thought that Ottawa would be able to score 34 points and Caleb Evans with a 3-touchdown game. And I mean, he didn't throw over 200 yards, threw for 191, but they had way more yards than they had in their week 1 game.
They had more in the first quarter than they did. And you know what? This is great for Ottawa. I mean, I think we all realize that the former Bomber duo of Matt Nichols and Dominic Davis was, I mean, not getting it done. And I'm not sure how much Matt Nichols has left. Davis was never really an option here in Winnipeg, so it was maybe a little surprising, you know, that he was the number 2 guy. They need to find some new quarterbacks. They signed Doug Hodges. We'll see what happens to him. I believe he signed a 3-year deal, so he'll be in the mix. But I'll tell you what, Caleb Evans, pretty nice start for him as a CFLer, getting a big win as a huge underdog against the Elks team that now sits at 2-5, Remis. Like, if you look at the CFL standings, I mean, you almost have to, you know, kind of rub your eyes and say, am I seeing this? Calgary and Edmonton, both at 2-5. BC, 2 games ahead, 4-3 right now. And even looking across to the East Division, Montreal just 2-4 on the season, so a half game up on those clubs. But again, to qualify for the crossover, you have to have a better record. And Edmonton's next part of his schedule is brutal. Back-to-back against Winnipeg. I think they've got a couple against Saskatchewan. We could very well be seeing the first time in maybe forever that Calgary and Edmonton both missing the playoffs in the same season.
Yes, yeah. It's crazy to think Calgary, we're kind of been dealing with that, but Edmonton, you know, we thought in the first half against the Bombers the other week, you know, maybe this Cornelius guy is pretty decent, and then the Bombers really gave it to him. I mean, they have dynamic players on offense, James Wilder, who did finally hit the over prop. I saw a lot of people tweeting that they needed him to the over for rushing.
Last play of the game.
And Greg Ellingson, I mean, he's been a CFL All-Star, Darrell Walker. I mean, these are good players. And then against this Ottawa team that just got, you know, whipped by Montreal, Vernon Adams putting up like crazy touchdowns and points. BC twice doing the same thing to these guys. And I mean, congratulations to Ottawa. The fans there, they support the team. It was pretty miserable. And I said I wasn't even going to watch the game because I thought it was going to be a horrible beatdown with no offense like it was last week. But we all were proven wrong, and this is why you watch the games. So
that's why they play the games, folks. Shout out to Ottawa for getting it done. Their fans deserved it. And I think everyone, you know, happy for Paul Lapalisse because that's a miserable situation to be in. I mean, he wanted to be a head coach again, jumped at the opportunity to get one of the 9 jobs in the league as the boss, but went into a situation where talent-wise, they just simply were not up to snuff with the rest of the league, but managed to get it done last night. So well done, Ottawa. Shout out to the Ottawa fans. Cut those logs and enjoy the victory. Waiters21 said, Rod Peterson said, yeah, Calgary and Edmonton have never missed the playoffs in the same season. That is what I thought. It's stunning to see them where they are right now. But I'll tell you what, the rest of the West, including people here in Winnipeg, will take it. I think it's going to be a 3-horse race coming right down to the end. We'll see the next couple of weeks, depending on what the Bombers do. You know, I think they could, you know, almost clinch first with a few games left if they continue winning right now. But again, a huge game against BC. A win against BC would almost guarantee them of being in the top 2. And then, of course, they've got the tiebreaker over Saskatchewan right now. But BC will be ready to go. We'll have more on the game as we get closer to the weekend with what's going on in the Canadian Football League and the Bombers getting ready for the British Columbia Lions in a late one on Friday night. And then there was the Blue Jays last night, Reem. You know, I mean, Hyunjin Ryu was not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. He really had to work hard in the first few innings. I mean, I think he went 21 or 22 pitches just in the first inning alone to get out. You know, did walk a couple guys, you know, gave up a home run that tied the game and then, you know, was out, I believe, before the 5th inning. The bullpen came in, but it really came down to one swing of the bat that absolutely turned the game, and that was Giancarlo Stanton, with a swing that looked like hitting a 9-iron off the turf, a pitch that was so far out of the strike zone. But when that guy gets his barrel of the bat on the ball, it's gone. And that's what happened last night. A 3-run shot late in the game that really flipped it. And man, that's a tough loss for the Jays, especially when you consider that the Red Sox lost to the Orioles last night. A glorious opportunity to make up a full game on both of the teams that are in the mix.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. They got lucky with the Red Sox loss, but that game totally changed there with the Giancarlo Stanton blast. And I mean, it was a changeup down, very, very down, and somehow got a hold of it and rocket. I mean, you got to kind of just tip your hat to him. He's been one of the best hitters for a long time. And I think they said they wanted like 5 innings out of regular, got 4 1/3. I mean, he had 3 strikeouts. I don't think he hit that over prop that I said that he would. It was at 3.5, 1 walk. So I mean, maybe you'd like to see him go deeper. It was on the Jays bullpen, which has been a bit questionable. And as Trevor Richards, they're giving up the bomb to Giancarlo Stanton. But look, if this was let's say this is a best of 3 series against the Yankees, you still have a shot here to take 2 in a row. It's going to be tough, but they are in it. And this wild card race, let me just pull it up right now, Huss, because it is so tight with the the Yankees now in the lead. You got to check this every day. Yankees in the lead, then the Red Sox, then Seattle, who's 0.5 games back, and then I can't even. And then and then Toronto 1 game back. So they just got to. I think tonight, I don't want to say must win, but I mean, you got to get a split here in the first 2.
Yeah, I mean, they need to win this series. I mean, bottom line. And what tonight, it's Barrios on the hill for the Blue Jays going up against Garrett Cole. Cole, one of the top pitchers in the league. Barrios is going to need to show why they brought him to Toronto and, hopefully get those bats going, even up this series with an opportunity to win it tomorrow. Because as I said, there's 5 games left in the season. They have to win these. They've got 3 against Baltimore, and you need to win those, but you don't want to be relying on other people to lose. You want to take care of your own business. It meant winning this series, and unfortunately now down 1 afterwards. They're going to need to win the next 2. There was something that happened that I do want to bring up on the program, though, and I think the karma of this act maybe led to what happened with Giancarlo Stanton's home run. I don't know if you were watching, Remis, but in the 7th inning, down 3-2 in a playoff, basically a playoff game, the wave was going through the Rogers Center on all 3 levels. Now, fair or foul, normally I would say that's outrageous. I did think it was outrageous. I almost tweeted the same. Do we give the fans a pass because they're back and kind of forgot how things work and we're just so happy to be there that they were doing the wave? Or is it an epic fail for doing the wave at such a tense point in the 7th inning of what was essentially a playoff game?
Oh, man. Yeah, probably a fail, right? I don't think that's an appropriate time. You usually do the wave like the end of a blowout. I think that, when the game has already been decided, doing the wave.
It's a victory lap.
Yeah, doing the wave at an intense portion of the game. I think that's bad etiquette. And I like the wave. I know people hate it, but this is why people hate it, because some dummy tries to start it at the wrong time, and you got other people like, hey, I'm trying to watch the game here, and someone's doing the wave. So yeah, I mean, it's giving people who like the wave a bad name when you do that.
And just after that, boom, 3-run shot, game over for the Yankees. So I did see a number of tweets about that. So I certainly wasn't the only one. I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt right now because a lot of fans, it's been so long since they've been at games. I think they sort of forgot how things work. But man, the wave losing in the 7th inning of such an important game, bad look. It led to bad things. I'm not saying that they're correlated, but the evidence is there. Just kidding, of course.
Schickster says, since when is the wave a winning event? Well, I don't know. You're not just going to do it during like one of the most intense parts of the game.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I'll tolerate the wave if it's, 5-1 in the 3rd period and, the fans are, the game's essentially over.
Oh.
But I mean, you don't see a lot of big waves happening when your team's getting their asses kicked, do you? So that would just be a normal thing. There's a number. Fail. We've got fail. Regoran, oh my God, Hustler hates bad time waves. Justin Fung, epic L for what they did. Waves suck. I'm not completely anti-wave. There's a time and a place for everything. Last night, at that point in that game, certainly not it. But we'll see what happens tonight. We'll have more on this game. We'll set up everything when we hit the Coolbet lines a little bit later on. We're going to get back to the Winnipeg Jets, though, in just a second with Tim Campbell. Before that, I do want to thank our friends at Canadian Club for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And we've got some exciting things to happen. We've been doing the marble races. We've had some of the great I Love Rye packages with that incredible Canadian Club product. We now also have, they've just come in, some amazing Winnipeg Sports Talk CC merchandise that we put together. Big shout out to our friend James who helped make that happen. So on Friday, make sure you're here. We'll maybe do a big game going into the Friday nighter for the Bombers against the Lions. Maybe see if I can squeeze another I Love Rye package out, but we'll definitely have the opportunity for someone to win a Winnipeg Sports Talk hoodie and a Winnipeg Sports Talk t-shirt with our friends over at Canadian Club. And of course, you can get the great taste of CC at any Manitoba Liquor Mart. And of course, it's available all throughout IG Field, as CC is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Don't forget, we're finishing up our season with the Assiniboia Downs, but they are open year-round. You can pop down to the track. VLT's open at 9 a.m. Great food. Terrace Dining Room open on Friday and Saturday night. And when you're out there, you can also bet on tracks around the world, or you can hit it up at the HPIBet.com website. We can't wait to get back out there. And again, thanks to Assiniboia Downs for their support throughout the year. We'll get to the Coolbet lines a little later on. NHL preseason, big baseball games tonight. Tomorrow's Thursday nighter. But let's talk Jets. The team is back on the ice tonight, and a number of familiar faces in the lineup before the Jets take on the Edmonton Oilers. And speaking of familiar faces, it's great to welcome back Tim Campbell of NHL.com to the program. Tim, what's going on? How are you, my friend?
I'm well, Hustler. How are you today? I'm told you're a bit blurry today.
Yes, apparently. We've got some sort of an internet snafu, and I look like I'm being streamed from a Commodore 64 right now. But the audio's fine.
Okay. It's a classic look. I like it.
Exactly. Looks like one of those old Atari games or something like that coming out. But we're handling it. How have you been? Looking forward to getting the puck, dropping the puck on this season in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, yes, I am. I think, it's another one of our steps towards normal life. There are the fans in the rink, as misbehaving or well-behaving as some of them are in different places. I thought it was just cool the other night. Went to the game on Sunday night and just see the fans in there, and the players and the coaches have been talking about that the past few days, about the buzz being there. And I think the way the coach mentioned the other night, walking out to the bench to the smell of popcorn. It's a simple thing in life, but so much more appreciated, I think, than some years ago. So little steps towards normal life, and hopefully an exciting season isn't too far away here for us.
Well, and certainly that is the case. I mean, talking to fans and, fans of the Jets and friends, I mean, I think everyone is excited to get back into the rink. And, it's been a long time. And I was going back. I mean, I think March 6th was the last game, and Connor Hellebuck and a big shutout against Vegas. Everyone was all fired up. And then within a couple of weeks, everything was shut down. And we know what we've been dealing with ever since then. But as far as the team goes, when we spoke in the offseason, I think everyone around here very excited about the club, and particularly the offseason moves that general manager Kevin Cheveldayoff made, re-signing Paul Stastny, which was quickly followed by the acquisitions of Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt. So once that had taken place, you got Pionk signed, Kopp signed the one-year deal. It really didn't seem like there was a lot of news going through to August. Heading into training camp, Tim, from your perspective for the Jets, what intrigued you the most about what we're going through right now before we get to the upcoming season when it comes to the Jets roster and the organization?
Wow, Hustler, I would say to you, intrigue. There's very little of it for me at the Jets training camp. I really think, the new top four in terms of the defense pair with Neil Pionk and Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt with Josh Morrissey. We're going to get a look at Morrissey and and Schmidt tonight in the game against the Oilers here, the preseason game. But how much is that going to tell me? I'm not really sure. I think I need to see 10 games of the regular season before, I'll start to get a feel as to whether this is a powerful, impactful, or impactful moves. I make it plural. I don't really want to put a lot of stock in preseason appearances. I mean, there is some interest in how Christian Vesalainen is doing on the third line, but again, I don't think training camp is going to give us the answer to that. So it's not intrigue for me. It's a necessary time. The players need it. The coach was talking about this morning. They needed to get their timing down in their hands and feeling good. About where their conditioning is at. They've trained really hard over the summer. Players don't come back to camp anymore to get into shape. It's really about the timing. They like to get in a few exhibition games and go from there. Intrigue. I mean, we saw Eric Comrie in net the other night. That's going to be an ongoing story. I really don't think we're going to have a verdict on that in the first 25 or 30 games, really. Are you going to judge a guy by one start? And the same in the preseason. Are you going to judge him by his first 3 starts? I don't think so. I don't want to say it's boring at Jets training camp, but in a way, it's a refreshing sort of training camp. There's no contract intrigue with anybody. We don't have the Buff intrigue of a couple years ago. We don't have the ongoing Patrick Laine soap opera that was kind of had already started by this time last year or last season. So it's kind of dull, but this is the necessary preamble to some really potentially exciting times with the Jets, and to see how well or not well their group has been affected. I certainly think that the experience of Nate Schmidt, and in particular Brendan Dillon, I think, and helping just increase the depth. I mean, we're going to see, by the looks of it, Dylan DeMello and Logan Stanley, maybe a little bit of Ville Heinola and Nathan Beaulieu as that third pair. That to me just makes the Jets deeper when those guys aren't asked to do too much. So I remain confident that the top 6, 8, or 9 forwards are pretty good quality, and they give the Jets a chance to win most nights. So you would have to think that the defensive end of things, shots against and chances against, will go down, and just by the math will tell you, if those things go down, the other end should go up. I would be optimistic if I was a Jets fan right now. How it's going to play out, I don't know, but the intrigue for me comes later, November to March and beyond, and we'll see. We'll see then how much the intrigue goes up.
Well, let's talk about a couple of things that you mentioned. I mean, let's start in net, because Comrie, by all accounts, wasn't fantastic or anything like that on Sunday. I was sort of torn whether he really does have to prove that he's ready to go in camp, like through and have a real strong preseason, that he's ready to go, or will the jury be out as we get into the regular season? Because at some point, if it doesn't work, they will have to go a different direction. I don't think that guy is in the organization right now. When, in your opinion, Tim, when will we have a verdict on whether Comrie is ready for what is a very important role behind Connor Hellebuck, who obviously will still be playing the majority of the games?
Yeah, I'll say something that might surprise you and or others. But for me, like, this decision is not going to come. It's not going to come before the trade deadline, or maybe a few weeks here or there. And that statement's precluding an absolute meltdown of, maybe 3 or 4, horrific starts in a row, which I just don't see. And the reason I'm taking a longer term view of this, I'll spell it out quickly, is, look, Eric Comrie has, he's been a bit of a victim of the pandemic. He was in quarantine a lot of last season, bouncing back between teams. He's been in the Jets organization for enough time and a long time. They know him very well as a character, but here's what he hasn't had much of in recent times, and that's a steady diet of NHL practice, NHL surroundings, that includes meetings, It includes some camaraderie, I think, in terms of the chemistry. But NHL shots and some NHL appearances with NHL shooters against good teams. He's had precious little of that in the past 2 to 3 years, from what I can see. And so you can't just ask a guy who's, kind of used to being really good at the American Hockey League level and sort of popped into the NHL here and there. You can't just ask him to come in and, be a wizard. I think it's more reasonable to allow him pretty long runway to get in, get used to, what you're facing on a daily basis, facing Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele and Nate Schmidt in a practice every day, and playing some games against some good teams and good shooters, that your timing and your thinking and your overall reaction process, it just isn't going to go from A to B, or B to A, I guess would be a better way to put it, in 3 weeks. So I see this as, there'll be some selected starts. You'll have to, take a close look at these back-to-backs. And, into the new year is when I think it's more reasonable to have a thorough discussion about how Eric Comrie is transitioning. And, from everything I've asked to folks I've spoken to through the offseason, since this decision was made, there seems to be an awful lot of faith and an awful lot of support from within the organization that Eric can do the job. So I'm going to be satisfied with that at the moment. I mean, I want to see it now. And I'm not going to go all crazy and start my hair on fire by the 28th of October if his first 2 starts don't go too well. I'm willing to give it a longer time because of what's happened to him in the past 2-3 years. If he had been a regular NHL backup, maybe on another team or the Jets in the past 2 seasons, and the start was poor and the first half was poor, then I would worry. But I think it's fair to Eric to allow him a bit more transition time than that, because that allowing him more of that time will allow his real talent to come out, whatever that's going to be. So I'm prepared to wait, and I think the Jets are prepared to wait for some time as well.
Tim Campbell of NHL.com with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, discussing the latest on the Winnipeg Jets, who are in action tonight at Canada Life Centre against the Edmonton Oilers. It's an interesting comparison between the path for Eric Comrie into the lineup this year and compare that with someone like Ville Heinola, who many people think is ready to be a National Hockey Leaguer. But with the acquisitions in the offseason, it's a pretty crowded blue line. And I think everyone realizes that you would be better off playing 20, 25 minutes a night in the American League than, being in the press box. But Tim, how challenging do you think it is for the organization to, to have a player like that probably himself feels that he's ready to go in the National Hockey League without a spot for them? I mean, how much coaching or management will there be of the personality of a young player like that, assuming that there's not a spot for him in Winnipeg at the beginning of the season?
I don't think it requires a lot, to be honest with you. I think a lot of that's already done. And that's done, before and probably not long after Ville was actually drafted, where they have a pretty deep dive into Ville's character and his tendencies and his personality. Is he a patient guy? Is he impatient? Is he teachable? Is he coachable? Is he headstrong? Is he stubborn? All these things they'll by now surely have a good book on. And, you mentioned something pretty important there in your question, and that's whether being in the press box or playing 25 minutes a night for the Moose is better. And the answer is easy. It's obviously playing 25 minutes a night for the Moose. And if there are going to be injuries, which there almost certainly will be, going up and down now from the Moose to the Jets it's pretty easy normally. And it should be a little easier this year, given the schedules and just the way things are. But, there's a certain amount of time where the Moose and the Jets are in the same place, which is Winnipeg. And when Ville's needed, I think he's confident enough as a young man to come up and go into the lineup. And I think, I just don't see 25 minutes a night for him in the Jets lineup right now. And is that a bad thing? No, some people think it is. But I'm of the opinion that no time with the Moose will be wasted time. And the comfort level with playing against men in a North American game at a pretty good pace, and that applies to the American Hockey League. It's all a good thing for Ville Heinola, and he'll be a better player and a better person for it down the road here. And if that means his, full-time job with the Jets is sort of slid or, shuffled down the road here a season or two, what's happening now should not be seen as a negative. I don't really understand the clamoring for Ville Heinola in the lineup right now. Yes, I want to see the young, talented players come in and make an impact, but are they really ready at 20 and 21 and sometimes even 22 to do those things? It takes some pretty special players to do that. Ville may turn out to be that special player, but right now, from what I've seen on the ice and in camp and the people they have, it's going to take a little more time. And I don't know. I don't know why it's so hard to be patient these days. I mean, there's clamoring for Ville and Dylan Samberg to, be pushed into the lineup, but there's also been clamoring for, why could we never find players like Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt before? Well, the Jets have found those guys. So I don't know. You can't have your cake and eat it too on what's wrong with the lineup. And, not only be patient, but I think there's a reason to be enthusiastic that there are these young bucks that are ready and knocking on the door. I mean, what a good problem to have. These are the kinds of things that were not possible, were not in play in any atmosphere in the first 3 or 4 seasons when this franchise came back. And you and I probably expended a lot of hot air talking about those things in the early years. I do remember it. So now here we are in a much, much better position with a really interesting problem and good problems to have. And you hope to have as many of these as in the future, because what does that tell you? It tells you you're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. And guys are going to get hurt. There will be opportunity at some point for these young men to come into the lineup and do it. And I think they'll just be much more prepared to pop in and play at the level that they need to if they want to stay in the National Hockey League with the way things have shaken out. Not to mention, having real legitimate competition for playing time within an organization, I think makes everyone better. And we haven't really had that since everything, especially on the right side, shook down post 2018. They're now in a situation, Kevin Dayoff deserves a lot of credit for adding to it, but also the drafting that they've done. And, we focus in on Ville Heinola, but there's Dylan Samberg, there's Kovacevic, there's Declan Chisholm, Gawanke. I mean, this Moose team this year, especially on the blue line, certainly talent-wise, Tim, I think far beyond anything we've seen, certainly since the Moose came back to Winnipeg.
Well, and it's good. And, there's there are a couple of positives there. If Heinola is destined to play some time with the Moose and Kovacevic and some of the others that have come, down the road of development, I mean, what a great situation, first of all, for Mark Morrison and his group, to be more competitive and maybe to be a winning sort of team, but also the internal competition. Who's the first call-up? Who's playing well this week? When Kevin Cheveldayoff, if he probably has seen a lot of the games himself, but when he needs Mark's opinion on who's playing well and whose time is it to come up and fill in, that's a pretty valuable carrot that the organization has. You want to be ready to get your chance. So, play better with the Moose if you want to get your chance. And I want to just backtrack to one other thing you mentioned about the depth and the competition. I mean, the embodiment of this whole equation about, the defense has got to get better and we've got some young guys, let's get them in there. The embodiment of this whole development and patience argument is in the lineup now to me as a regular. His name is Logan Stanley. And last season at this time, which would have been about January, I guess, when we were into training camp. But, a season ago, I don't think a lot of people saw it as all that likely Logan Stanley was a regular. I mean, there were probably some people wanting to get him in there. And but here's where a case of the development path is different for everybody. Patience pays off, and patience has paid off for the Jets with Logan Stanley. I mean, he was drafted in 2016, as you'll well recall, and forgotten, I'm sure, by some folks over that
Never
period
mind
of time.
forgotten, written off as a bust, Tim.
Well, I mean, by some folks. And,
yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I mean, this is the thing. And the Stanley
so there, here
argument.
he is, and he's done his thing. I mean, in the past here, without, bringing it up and making fun of anybody, I've heard the same things, a few years ago about Josh Morrissey when he didn't start his first pro season with the Jets as the fourth defenseman, that he was a bust and a waste of a pick. Well, I mean, those are ridiculous things to say. And when you hear them, I mean, they bear ignoring as opposed to arguing about. And it's the same with Logan Stanley. His time frame was a little longer. He's a big man. It's learning how to play with his body in the NHL. I mean, and if you think all you're going to get from Logan Stanley is what you've seen, you're sadly mistaken on top of that. So the bottom line to it all is a little bit of patience goes a long way when you're talking about development, and the pecking order and the depth chart that's being assembled. And it goes in fits and starts, but it's a positive, enthusiastic thing to have. And Logan Stanley is the latest bit of evidence. If some of the others like Josh Morrissey, and we could talk about any number of the forwards on this team and goalie Connor Hellebuck, they're all great examples of it. They're staring us in the face every day, and yet we seem to forget them very quickly, these examples.
I have to laugh, just thinking about Stanley, but you're exactly right. I mean, and what he did, he earned it. I mean, like a year ago at this time, when we were in training camp, if you recall, he wasn't even in the A group, Tim. I mean, he was in the B group and earned his way through his play, that all of a sudden he was an option. And I'm not even sure that the organization envisioned what he would do for the team last season as often that he did. But he made the most of the opportunity, and now he is, presumably a part of that top six.
My recollection was he got into the second game of the season last year. I believe it was in Toronto. And my recollection is there were a lot of nervous people on the day of that game that, here's Logan Stanley's first NHL game. Big kid. Well, yeah, he's been coming along, but, wow, he's never played against NHL competition. Now here he is against Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, and wow, this might not turn out well. I'm nervous about this. And, here we are, all these games and a season and some playoff games later. And, I don't detect that there's a whole lot of people all that nervous about Logan Stanley going into game one in Anaheim this year. So that just shows you how far things have come in a very relatively short period of time. And again, a good reminder about what can happen with development.
Yeah, and it's a great point. Tim Campbell with us from NHL.com. Give him a follow on Twitter at TimNHL. Let's move off the blue line and get up to the front. The one thing that I kind of didn't expect that has taken place so far was the swap of Paul Stastny and Andrew Kopp. I guess maybe we're just so used to having Kopp riding shotgun with Adam Lowry and those guys driving that line. And Kopp's in a unique situation in that he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. Because there wasn't the money under the cap to sign him long-term after the other deals got done. Oh, what do you make of where Kopp is in the lineup right now and the opportunity that he seems to be on the plate for him going into the season, potentially as a top six forward?
Well, I'm not surprised by it. And he has played some top six time in his resume here. In fact, quite a bit of it. He was reminding us of some of the combinations. I think it was yesterday when we spoke to him at the Iceplex, which to me is amusing, but he was also advocating for the fact that he fully expects there will be plenty of time playing with Adam Lowry down the road here. I mean, clearly he's comfortable with it. Clearly Adam is comfortable with it. And most importantly, clearly Coach Paul Maurice is comfortable with these guys, especially when it comes to maybe facing some of the more elite teams or players or opponents in the schedule, and particularly on the road. I mean, there's a line that he can, happily throw out at Rogers Place in Edmonton, or, in Vancouver when Paterson and company get rolling up and they're having a hot week, or, in Toronto if it's going to be against Austin Matthews, and you just go through the list of talented teams around the NHL. I mean, there's a third line that, Paul Maurice, some nights he must just chuckle to himself about matchups as the road team. If he, when his worst option maybe is throwing those guys out on the ice against the other team's number one line. So, I think Andrew Kopp has earned all the opportunities he's got. He's certainly proven to be the jack of all trades, the player that excels, the guy you can put out without a second thought in pretty much every situation. He can make plays. He certainly reads the game well. He can make other players around him better, and in particularly defensively. I mean, I noticed the coach pointed out the other day, which is a really interesting concept because you don't hear that much. You always hear about, well, that guy makes other guys better because he's a good passer, or or he sees the rush, really well. He can make the plays, but making someone better that you're playing with when you're talking about a defensive sort of scheme, that's a more interesting concept, certainly more cerebral concept. And I think Andrew Kopp fits into that well. It just continues to show his value in all these situations. And, that's going to make him a valuable player here this season. Maybe longer, we can hope, but certainly in the NHL for some time to come. His value certainly is increasing.
Well, and part and parcel of that is the versatility of Paul Stastny. I mean, being able to put him down playing with alongside
for sure.
Lowry, and and what an opportunity for Vesalainen right now out of the gate. And I think this was a guy that he seems to have done the things that the organization has asked him to do to prepare himself for the opportunity to get into the lineup. And I know he's a first-round pick. Not everyone just gets plunked into the top 6 and is in a scoring role. And it seems like through his time with the Moose, as well as the time last year with Winnipeg, he's understood some of the things that he needed to get better to do. And so far, so good with the way he's looked with those guys on what looks like the third line for Winnipeg.
Yeah, I think it's going to take some time and some reps here. To me, it's the young player who's kind of been knocking on the door. It's all this, I call it believability, and not for the general public or the fans, but in his own mind. Is this believable? Does he feel comfortable enough to do the things he's good at? And that doesn't happen just with one chance or one game or one practice. I see this also taking some weeks and maybe even a month or 2 or 3 for Christian to unlock the freedom of himself to just go out there and do what he can do. That, some of the defensive things and the reading things of the game become sort of automatic in his brain. He can stop thinking about them because, he'll do the right thing every time when he sees X, Y, or Z, whether it's forechecking or on the rush or defending in his own zone. When those things start to become a little more routine and automatic, then you'll see, some of the abilities and talents and what he's capable of, his real hockey thinking, I guess. Once that other stuff is put to bed in a comfortable way and that it pleases the coach, obviously, then we'll see more from Christian. So once again, in the first 5 games, if he has no points, it would be really disappointing to see, Twitter light up with all the people, hair on fire, get him in the third, get him to the 4th line, or, let's get the 13th forward in there and give him a chance. Like, that's not going to help anything. They need to reinforce with Christian. I mean, they believed in him enough. Here's what it comes back to for me. They believed in him enough to put him in, I think, 4 Stanley Cup playoff games last spring. So it was through injuries and other decisions. But look, you don't put somebody in a playoff game if you've got no faith in them. They've got to have something to bring to that time of year if you're going to be able to actually be in a starting 20 of a postseason game. So they believed enough in Christian to put him into those playoff games and play him some. Did he make a big difference? Probably not. But you cannot practice enough or coach enough or have a video session enough to give you some faith and confidence that being in a Stanley Cup playoff game will give a player, especially a young player. And so I think you're going to see this go on for a little while they, tinker and fidget and try to, coddle him and probably in some ways to unlock what's actually in there. I hope we'll see it sooner or later just from a fan's chair. But if we don't, give it a little bit of time. This is a big change for someone to become a regular player in the NHL without the fear of being, cut or sent to the minors. And, if he's got the ability, we'll see it. They'll get it out of him.
Tim, I'm really looking forward to seeing Cole Perfetti in person in game action for the first time tonight. Very interesting. We talked a lot about the Moose. I mean, an opportunity to play for the Moose that wouldn't normally be there for this, I think, is hugely beneficial for Perfetti, because he's not the sort of a player that I think you'd want playing limited minutes on a fourth line, and you certainly wouldn't want him spending a bunch of time in the press box. But what have you seen so far from Perfetti? And do you think he might be in the opening night lineup because, of course, Mark Scheifele has that 1-game suspension?
Well, that is possible. I would say to you, the next 2 weeks will determine whether that's an option or not. And tonight will, be step one of the next 2 weeks. So he did participate the other night in the game, and kind of played a limited time, limited role. And he, excuse me, some of the things that were important to watch the other night were in a quicker pace game where there's hitting and some physical play and some traffic. Where will he go? What will he do? How will he handle it? I did see him play with the Moose last year, 1 game in person and a few others video wise, and that to me, from what I've been hearing more than what I've seen, but again, people you talk to saying that was maybe the best step, the most pleasant surprise, if you can call it a surprise with a guy of that ability, that he made last year, was that he's a little guy, let's face it, in a big man's league where the game is heavy and fast, and he figured out where to go and how to survive last year in the American League. And it's not an easy league when there's lots of players in the NHL quite willing and able and ready to take your head off when you're not looking. And he navigated his way through last season, and I think they were pretty pleased with that. So here's another step of it now, a little taste of some NHL preseason games, which wasn't available to him or anybody last season, to get in there and kind of figure out a little more about how it works. Practice is one thing with your NHL friends at training camp, but facing some real enemy fire, is way better. And I have a feeling, what do the Jets have? Six exhibition games, 5 more. I would say Cole is almost surely going to get 3 or 4 exhibition looks, maybe 5 even, depending on how this is going and how the Mark Scheifele 1 game, left in suspension equation works out. If Cole remains in the bidding for, that potential job for a game, then it'll probably go to the last exhibition game. So maybe that's what's on the line for him. Just show the coach that you are figuring it out. You don't have to have all the answers when you're as young as he is. And then, there's the element of, well, he can make plays. If, we saw the shootout goal on the first day of training camp, which was basically, Xerox copy of that in the exhibition shootout the other night against Ottawa. You've got to think he knows more than one move. That's not his only good move, but those 2 things right away would make you want to come back and see him in another game.
Tim, the other guy that I'll be focusing on tonight is David Gustafsson. He was the player of the year for the Manitoba Moose last year. I think many of us thought that, when the puck dropped on this season, he'd be in the lineup, presumably in the middle of that 4th line. Tonight, he's going to be going out with Austin Pugnansky and Mikey Esimont, the 2 new players in the organization. Where's Gus right now? And what do you think the chances are that he is in that opening night lineup?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. On your last question, where is he now? Well, I tried to watch him a little bit in the game the other night, but exhibition games they're I don't know. In some ways, they're hard to watch, and not even sure what you get out of them. I know the coaches, they have a different way of looking at these things, and what I've paid more attention to is, what kind of comments am I hearing either by his teammates or by Coach Paul Maurice? Whether it's been recently or even in the past. But at camp here, he's talked about David on a couple of occasions. And, what I'm hearing is there's a growing trust in how he sees the game, how he sees his job. Is he responsible enough? Can he be sound enough in his own end to be trusted to be put out there in that 4th line role? A lot of times it's just 4 against the other team's 4, but not all the time. Sometimes you get caught on an icing. Sometimes the changing in the matchups go awry, and you'll find a 4 versus 1 spell for a shift or 2 in a game, and you have to be able to survive or get by in those occasions. And if you're really good, you can even take advantage of them. So that's what Paul Maurice and the coaches are looking for is, how much trust is there in David? He can skate. He's a pretty good size. And so far, from what I hear, that they believe he sees the game like they need him to see it. He knows his responsibilities. He knows the X's and O's about what it is they're running defensively and who's responsible for this, that, and this spot and that spot, and how he mixes with those other players. So now he's with two sort of newbies tonight. Maybe they'll be looking to see if he can, help guide those guys through some jitters and surely some butterflies tonight. New guys playing, getting a shot in a preseason NHL game. That's not probably the easiest thing to do for new guys. They're going to let David sort of run that and make it work tonight. So, there's kind of a bit of responsibility in an easy, no consequences kind of game, but it's still some responsibility. And I'm sure that's what they'll be watching as much as, can he make this pass, or, how's he looking on this defensive play? How will he maybe help these other two guys get past their nervousness now and just have a good preseason outing maybe after the first 3 or 4 shifts? I got to think that's part of what they're looking for tonight.
Hey, before we finish up, and it's so great to have you on the program, looking forward to this game tonight. You, of course, do more than just cover the Winnipeg Jets. You're focusing on all the Western Canadian teams. Just maybe a quick word on what's happening in Alberta with the Flames and the Edmonton Oilers, and of course the West Coast, where everything seems to be at a standstill right now with arguably their two most important players in Quinn Hughes and Elias.
Yeah, I get the vibe. I haven't looked in on the Canucks all that much, but from what I've been reading and looking at the game summary earlier from their exhibition game against Calgary, I get the feeling they all just kind of believe they're in some kind of limbo here right now. Yes, they've got Oliver Ekman-Larsson kind of trying to find his feet with a new organization, get used to a bunch of new people as his teammates and a new coach. I think OEL will be fine. He's that fine of a player and that fine of a human. He's going to fit in well there in Vancouver. I think there's a lot of upside for his fresh start there. But clearly the Canucks are not going to get anywhere. I don't think they'll be good survivors if Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson are, missing for any number of games. I mean, the longer this goes now, the more concerning it would be. They're talented players. Look, if they came in on Friday, they'll be okay. If they came in a week from Friday, they'll personally be okay. But missing time, this bonding time, this learning time, this get comfortable time, it's not a good idea for anybody. I had a conversation with one of my colleagues the other day. It was about Johnny Gaudreau's holdout. I think it was five years ago, and he basically held out for the whole of training camp before they got the contract settled, and he walked in to the Calgary Flames, rejoined the Calgary Flames at the morning skate on the day of the first game in Edmonton at Rogers Place against Connor McDavid. That was the first time anyone saw him, the first time he strapped up his skates with his teammates. Did he have a great start that year? I don't think so. But he's a good player. He'll get past it. So I don't think there's a lot of room for error in Vancouver for these guys to miss a lot of time. And hopefully they'll, be able to come to some kind of arrangement, get them back in and get them up and running so that, Vancouver can get off to a good start. Because I think a bad start for anybody, I know it's the Pacific Division and it's not that well thought of, but I think a bad start is not going to be a good sign for any team that's on the bubble. And that goes for the Calgary Flames too. I mean, they've made a few changes, but I think a lot of folks thought there would be more changes in Calgary. So they're, sort of wading through training camp. We'll get a chance to see a little more of what's going on with Calgary next week when the Jets have a back-to-back or a home-to-home with them. I mean, so a little bit in limbo in Calgary too. And you asked about the Oilers. Well, I mean, 6-0 over Seattle last night. Don't put a lot of stock in exhibition games, but a lot of their big guns are in last night, and they're looking pretty good to me. So we're going to see Zach Hyman with Connor McDavid, and I mean that's going to look wonderful on a lot of nights. And they've got some new defensemen they're trying to bring in. Again, Duncan Keith won't skate until Saturday in Edmonton. Cody Ceci, I believe, is in the lineup tonight here in Winnipeg. So some new faces there that they're trying to accommodate and acclimatize. Important guys they will be, but I think there's a sense of enthusiasm in Edmonton more than in Calgary or Vancouver right now.
Tim, this was awesome. Thanks so much for doing this. Cannot wait to chop it up with you as we get into the regular season. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Hustler. It's always good to see you. It kind of brightens up anybody's day.
Thanks, Tim. Have a great one. Enjoy it tonight. There he is, Tim Campbell, one of our great friends here on the program, covering the Winnipeg Jets and the Western Canadian NHL teams. You can read all of his work over at NHL.com. All right, we do want to get to the Coolbet Lines. We got a couple fun stories to finish up the program. But, Remo, I do want to get to Paul Maurice if we can today. Hear a little bit what the coach has to say about the lineup tonight and tonight's upcoming game. Let me know if we're good to go on that. We can let people hear what Coach Paul Maurice had to say before tonight's game. Again, a 7 o'clock puck drop down at Canada Life Center. The Jets' second of 3 home playoff games. Had the game against Ottawa on the weekend, and they will finish up the home portion of the preseason schedule a week from today, as Tim mentioned, against the Calgary Flames. Lineup for tonight, if you weren't with us at the top of the program: Connor Scheifele-Wheeler, Lowry Stastny-Vesalainen, Cole Perfetti centering Harkins and Svechnikov, and then David Gustafson, who we just mentioned, playing with Mike Esimont and Austin Pognansky. And I know Mitch had mentioned in chat that it doesn't make sense to play him with guys that, in his opinion, have no chance of making the squad. I guess there's something to be said for that. Bottom line is he's going to be playing in a fourth line role, and they'll probably be doing it with a number of different players. So I think it is a good opportunity for Gus. I'd love to see Gus in the lineup on game number 1. I think that he's earned the opportunity to see if he's ready for the National Hockey League. But a big part of that is showing that he's ready in these preseason games. So I will be interested, and I'll be focusing on David Gustafson when he's out there a little bit later on tonight when we get out to the rink. All right, let's hear from Coach Paul Maurice, Winnipeg Jets head coach, who spoke after the morning skate for the players that'll be in tonight's lineup. Here's the boss.
Paul, what are you looking to see from this group tonight? Are you watching the same way that you would?
Yeah, it's just to kind of set the other half of camp a little bit, and then see how far along you are with what you're seeing to make decisions on the next 2 games, which will be really important for a lot of players.
What do you like about your ability to kind of switch a few different defensemen for your power play units this year? A few other options, I guess?
Looks, right? So we have a unit last year that ran at a real high rate per minute on being on the ice, the Ehlers unit, as he likes to call it, when it's scoring, and lost Matty Perron at front on it. So we have to make an adjustment to that unit, and we've added another power play guy in Schmidt. So obviously we've lost a forward and added a D-man. But I think that we can, I don't think we have to lose anything on that unit. You saw, Josh score a goal from that hole as a one-timer. We got 2 left-handed guys that can shoot the puck heavy there. We almost, which would almost be a slightly different look for Nicky. He doesn't have to shoot the puck every time. Anyway, I think that we can do a lot of different things. And power plays get hot and then they get stale. And you want to have a place to go and try new things when your power play's not going. So I think net goals, we ended up 5th last year. We think we should be a top 10 power play team, and but we want to have more than one look. I think getting stale in any time on your special teams is dangerous.
Why is it important to have those 2 units going? And did you give consideration to giving Ehlers a shot with the top unit?
I did, and then Nicky would have car bombed me. Like, he loves that unit. Like he doesn't. He's on. I think they were maybe 3rd in the NHL in goals per 60 minutes. I mean, he doesn't necessarily want to come off it. If it's at the end of the day, they're either working or they're not. And then you got to decide how much time you're giving them. Right. So we'll give Nicky's unit quite a bit of time because we've seen it work at an elite level for a long time. The other unit maybe less time before we make some adjustments to it. But having 2 units was good for us last year. It keeps all of our skilled players involved in the game, and we'll continue to do that.
Paul, you often joke, and it's partly the truth too, that veterans don't like training camp, or some do, some don't. It gets old after a while. You're in your 26th season as coach. Is it different for you?
Well, this camp I haven't run before. I've ran versions of it, but the structure of camp, what we're trying to do with our team is all brand new, right? So when you put those two together, then it's exciting for me. And then there's a day, today, maybe tomorrow, that you think you've been friendly to everybody's hits the ice, they've all played together, everything's nice. You know there's going to be 5 guys who feel they didn't get enough of a chance in exhibition games, so we got 2 more games. And it's not at that point about making them happy, but you got to see some things to give you a plan for the next week, and then we all kind of hit that gear, and you see older players and veterans and coaches, older coaches, kind of have seen what they needed to see, and they want to move on and get to work. But we've worked hard here at this camp. Like, it's been a very professional camp in terms of, in my opinion, how the players have approached it. They've worked really, really hard. Our numbers come in and they just get better every year from a fitness point of view, and then they work. You can see it on the ice. We've been able to fortunately stay reasonably healthy other than the Sandberg injury. We want to keep doing that, but we've only got like a 7-day block possibly where we can practice hard. And then your schedule just says there's a bunch of drills that we run in training camp that you really can't run. You certainly can't run them in succession during the year unless you get an unusual block of days off. So it's our last push now.
The competition for the bar and sticks, I'm sure you come into camp with an idea of what each player brings. Is anyone opened your eyes, or is there anything happened in here that's kind of you've learned?
We haven't been overly surprised necessarily. The players that have come in are kind of where we thought they'd be. It's going to be I think the question is going to end up being how do the pieces fit, not necessarily an assessment of the individual piece. Any one of them probably could make the team, but how they function together is going to be the key piece, and it may take us a little while till we find that.
Just going back to my previous question, it's probably a simple answer, but why don't vets like training camp? Like, from your perspective, over 26 years.
Oh, I think it might be unfair. Like, okay, these guys are trained to have something fun to play for, training camp. Exhibition for these guys, they got to get ready, right? They don't want to get hurt, because that's a real bad, and it's in the back of your head. You got to get through it, but you also got to get ready. Training camps were a lot different when I started, right? They were 5 weeks long, and it was 2-a-days sometimes, and it was brutal. Now, these guys come in such good shape, all you'll do is wear your team right down. You push them hard. It's the hardest they'll practice all year. It's the longest they'll practice all year. And then once they feel like they're ready, I think these guys do get game ready quite a bit quicker, definitely quite a bit quicker than they used to. Some of them truly would come to get in shape. They needed that long runway. These guys are ready, right? They want to tie. As soon as they feel that their hands are ready, their conditioning's there, away we go. So nothing to play for is never any fun, right? No fans in the building's no fun. It's no fun.
How is not having Mark in the opener impacted your planning?
It's gonna, yeah. So we wanted to do, because a better answer is you never really plan to be sure what you got, right? You're always making adjustments. There's always injuries. This one we know. So we want to, I've run these lines, but I'll probably break off that maybe even in the last exhibition game. I'll run a different set of combinations, what we'll take into Anaheim.
And you touched on 7D at one point. Was that an idea of maybe in the opener that you don't have as much disruption, or?
No, that will all be based on, health schedule and what you see in training camp. So no decisions have been made on the forwards, but if we think that the 7th defenseman can add more than the 12th forward, we'll consider it. But if we got penalty killers in there that we need to have in our lineup in that hole, anybody that's a 2 systems guy, 5-on-5 plus another system, penalty killer, power play, those guys have to be in your lineup for your planning for the game. And if you've got your entire 4th line is in that situation, then you'll run 12 and 6.
How much, Paul, do you monitor the minutes for your veterans in these games? Do you want to keep them lower? Do you want to run forward?
No, you want to keep them normal without exceeding normal. So you want to get them to a fairly close to what they're used to, because they got to get ready for that. They got to prepare for it. But you don't want to get into 21 and 22. They'll tell you they love it, right? They're far more afraid of 12 minutes a night than they are 22 minutes a night, because they want to play these games. I want it to be 16, 17. We got into Andrew Kopp at 9 after the first period there the other night. We're laughing, but I think there were 6 or 7 penalties between both teams, and he's on both units. So I didn't play those guys, and then Pierre-Luc got the stick to the face, so I just got to cut those guys back at the end of the second period. I don't like doing it. I just got to keep them in a rhythm. That's all I want to do. Keep those veteran guys coming off the bench in a regular interval so they don't get too cold and they stay wired to the game.
And does that include with special teams? I mean, you mentioned with Andrew playing on both. Is there any concern, I mean, especially, I don't know, on a penalty kill too?
Yeah, so he came off. That would be part of it. Like Lowry will kill heavy early here tonight to get a few reps, and then we'll cut him right back.
Unmute that microphone and thank the coach for his time today. Interesting stuff with Maurice. And, Kenny Wiebe of Wiebe's World fame asked coach about, the loss of Mark in game number 1 and how that will, affect what he's doing right now. And, to me, the guy that, is really intriguing as potentially a player that might not normally be in the lineup is Cole Perfetti, of course. And Perfetti's going to be in that lineup tonight. So we'll look to see what he can do playing alongside Svechnikov and Jansen Harkins. But let's get Remis back in here. That really is interesting. I mean, Paul Stastny certainly could be a guy that I think could move up from the Lowry line and play in that spot. But there is an opportunity maybe to give the kid a little opportunity in game number 1 of the regular season, be with the team for a little bit before he presumably, assuming everyone is healthy, goes back to the Manitoba Moose and plays some big minutes and builds on the experience he got last year.
Yeah, I mean, you have a bunch of games to go before that ELC kicks in. And I think if he's ready, I don't think that they would hold him back because they think he can help them win. They'll play him. But I mean, we saw last year, they made sure not to play Heinola those couple extra games so they could roll over the ELC. So I think as a reward, maybe, you give him the game 1 and then Scheifele's back and then you send him back down. So that is something we're going to be watching tonight here as the Jets play against Edmonton.
All right. Hey, great to see everyone here with us in the live chat. If you're new, make sure you hit that red subscribe button and join us daily at 1 p.m. Daily, with the exception of tomorrow. We won't be doing a show. It is a federal stat holiday. It's the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So we will take tomorrow off. We'll be back on Friday with a full recap of tonight's action, getting ready for the Bomber game and a very busy weekend. And if you came late, we had a great interview with Connor McClennon from the Winnipeg Ice earlier today on the program. Very well-spoken young man. Just came back from training camp with the Philadelphia Flyers. So if you missed that, make sure to check it out. Really great conversation. But one of the things that we are still open for is your chance to win ice tickets for the big home opener Saturday night against the Wheaties from Brandon in the Battle of Manitoba in the Western Hockey League. So if you haven't yet and you are in Winnipeg and would like to go to the game if available, pop in the YouTube chat, put in !tickets. And in a couple minutes after we do our Coolbet Lines, we'll let you know who today's winner is. And thanks again to Munzie over at the Ice for both hooking up Connor McClennon to join the show today and for giving us some tickets to give out to Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners. All right, Remo, let's get to the Coolbet Lines for tonight. May as well start off with, and again, I suggest not betting on NHL preseason, but sometimes you just can't help it. And when we see the Jets lineup tonight and what Edmonton is bringing to town, no surprise that the Jets are a heavy -200 favorite. -200 in a game like that, I don't know whether you really want to lay it. However, I will say I was somewhat intrigued by Jets by 2 at +130. Other games in the NHL preseason, if you care, tonight, Blues, Blue Jackets in Seabus, Leafs and Sens in Ottawa, Capitals hosting the Devils, Florida Panthers taking on the Dallas Stars in Dallas, the Red Wings and Blackhawks going at it at the United Center in Chicago, the Seattle Kraken, fresh off getting waxed by the Oilers last night, 6-0. They're 1-1 on the preseason. They'll be taking on the Calgary Flames tonight at the Saddle Dome, and the late game is Arizona and Anaheim. If you'd like to see the odds, Remis has got them up there, but you can always go to coolbet.com for more. CFL lines. This is interesting, Remo. I just pulled this up. We were on the air yesterday when the lines came out. The Bombers opened as a 3.5-point favorite over BC. There's apparently been some money coming in on the home team. The Bombers now just a 1.5 point favorite against the British Columbia Lions. And I got to say, I think that's the biggest total we've seen at any point this season. 53 points, a little more confidence from the bookies on the offenses of both Winnipeg and BC after so many low-scoring games this year. But a big part of that has been the Bombers keeping teams to under 10 points on the other side of the field.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at that line movement there, because even on Bet Regal earlier in the week, the CFL partner, they were -5, the Bombers, and now -1.5. I would probably take the Bombers -1.5 just because they've been the better team this year. But you look at last week, Montreal coming off a loss. Are the Bombers going to be rusty off a bye? That total, very high. I'm also surprised by the total. The Bombers' defense, we know they've been very good at limiting points, except for that one game, by Toronto where they lost. So that'd be a tough one. I don't know. Mike Riley, he's been pretty good. And I know Lucky Whitehead him and Mike Riley were just named Players of the Month. And Lucky Whitehead looking for a revenge game against the Bombers. Could we see some offensive fireworks? Ooh, when I put my fantasy lineups together, it's something I have to consider. The total
Lucky Whitehead revenge game.
Yeah, and he was a bargain last week. Everyone had him. So I've been riding Lucky Whitehead quite a bit the last couple weeks in my CFL fantasy hot streak. It doesn't make me feel good here. If you're a Bomber fan, seeing that high total, that's weird.
Yeah, I'm getting in on the Bombers at -1.5.
Yes.
I have a feeling this will go back up. I think it probably finishes in and around 3 points. So that's where I'm at right now. Montreal 2.5 point underdogs at the Ticats. And the Riders, 2.5 point road favorites against the Calgary Stampeders. And a quick update on this Thursday nighter. Line hasn't moved. 7.5 points is what the line is. Cincinnati, 7.5 point favorites against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the Big Cat Bowl between the Jaguars and Bengals. Jags plus 285 on the money line. And the Bengals, a heavy home favorite at -357. All the rest of the NFL numbers are up for the weekend at Coolbet. And if you've never played before, use the promo code WST. They'll double your initial bonus up to $200. Use the promo code WST if you want to play with us over at coolbet.com. All right. Remote will give people a couple more minutes to put in exclamation mark tickets if they do want to enter for the contest for the ice tickets tonight. But let's get to a couple of the other stories in and around the world of sports today. Well, first off, on the Bombers practicing, getting ready for Friday's game in BC. We'll do a walkthrough tomorrow. I'm fired up. Kyrie Wilson coming back into the lineup, a big addition. But the guy that I want to see the most is 5'11", 310-pound defensive lineman Stove Richardson. Stove, honestly, one of the best nicknames I've heard in a long time. I guess there was the fridge, there's the freezer, and now the Bombers have the stove. He could be getting in there. And good news, Andrew Harris did practice in full gear today after being limited on Monday. Maybe it was a little bit of a veteran day for the veteran running back for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But all things being equal, Bombers pretty healthy, getting some important players back in a very good spot coming off the bye week, looking to improve their record to 7-1.
Yeah, they're looking healthy, as you said. The stove coming in. Great nickname. And I guess Andrew Harris was on maintenance day the other day. Keeping him fresh. Try not to overwork him too hard right off the bye. You want to keep him healthy, for now, but also for a potential playoff run. So we'll wait and see as we go, but it seems like the Bombers are in great shape, and I think BC's this could be the game of the week. These two. I mean, the Hamilton-Montreal doesn't necessarily excite me. I'm still not sure what Hamilton's QB situation. And then Saskatchewan-Calgary. Calgary's been pretty rough, but they have surprised us. So Bombers, Lines, that is the game of the week, and it is a late one on Friday, which is great, so I can play my hockey game at 6:30 and finish in time to watch the Bombers.
Of course, we touched on it a little earlier, the Elks faceplant in Ottawa last night. Great win for the Redblacks, their fans, Paul Apolice, nice to see. They're, of course, 2-5 right now, tied at the bottom of the division with the Calgary Stampeders. I actually think Calgary might get this win on the weekend, though. Saskatchewan, is a solid team, but to me, I just can't imagine the Stamps not getting back into the mix, at least for a playoff spot. To do that, they're going to need to win some big games. This is a huge one for Calgary. But we'll talk about that more on Friday's show as we get ready for the weekend. A bit of NFL news. Richard Sherman back in the league, Reem. He has signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And everyone talking about Tampa this week because of the Sunday Nighter, the return of Tom Brady to New England. I believe he's 68 yards from the all-time passing record. So he'll obviously get that. This could be, and I know it has been referred to, potentially the biggest regular season game in NFL history. I don't know whether Sherman's going to be in. I kind of doubt it. But my God, the hype train legitimately is cranking up for this. I mean, a once-in-a-lifetime event, 20 years in New England, and now Brady with another Super Bowl ring comes back to go head-to-head with the Dark Lord, Bill Belichick, and his new rookie quarterback, Mac Jones.
Did I see something online that Belichick didn't give Brady a proper goodbye? After all that, he just, no goodbye, that's it, that's all, we're done? I'm shocked.
On to week one. We're on to Cincinnati, as Bill Belichick would say.
I mean, that seems, I don't know, that seems pretty, I guess we'll be hearing more and more. But I don't know, I know there's like stories being told on how the way that it ended there. But yeah, that's I guess not surprising based on what we know of Bill Belichick's public persona. He's a guy who always wants to win. And I guess if you say you're moving on, he doesn't like you anymore. But it is easy to be amazed every single Sunday what Tom Brady's been doing this year. And like how much longer can he do this? We thought he was going to fall off a cliff. And here he is, still slinging touchdowns. It's crazy.
Still getting it done. Although they did get whooped up pretty good by the Rams last weekend, so you know that they'll be going in. I think Tampa's 7-point favorite, and I think you should take the Buccaneers in this game. I have a feeling this is going to be a major statement game by Tom Brady, going back to where he had all of his greatest successes as the greatest of all time with the greatest career, undoubtedly, in NFL history. Hey, just while we're talking NFL for a minute, Remo, you're a resident NFT guy.
Yes.
We're going to be getting NFL Top Shots coming up.
Yeah, I'm super pumped for this. I've been collecting the NBA Top Shot digital collectibles since like, when was that? Like last January, and they've just announced a deal. So, instead of collecting, pieces of paper, you're collecting digital moments on a blockchain, and they're not, pictures, they're a highlight. So, I have a bunch of dunks, 3-pointers on NBA. I'm very curious what's going to happen with the NFL, and this is the future of sports collectibles, and not physical, but digital. Very easy to buy and sell, and I don't have boxes of them in my house, and my wife's asking me to get rid of them. So I much prefer for the digital NFT sports artifacts.
What's your number one Top Shot NFT
for NBA?
Yeah.
I got a my best one is a Brandon Ingram Top Shot debut. It's his first one. That's my best one, Series 1. I got a pretty good Kyle Lowry one as well, Series 1. So Series 3 of that is coming up soon. And I'm a big fan, so watch out for, I think hockey mentioned they were planning on doing something. So this is, I think this
everyone's
is the future.
Going this way.
It's so much easier to trade, to see what they're worth, to see how many there are. Dapper Labs is the company. That they're based out of Vancouver. They make the NBA Top Shot digital collectibles, and now they're going to be doing NFL. So that was a big announcement. They just got valued in a deal has like $7 billion.
What?
And and the leagues like have a stake in them. There's a number of like very serious investors in this. So
when am I able to get my hands virtual hands on my first Patrick Mahomes NFT? When is this happening?
I'm not sure. I think they're further along. You got to sign up on. They tweeted you got to sign up on the wait list. I can put in a link actually if you in the chat if you want to get on their to get notified when they do it. I'll sign. What is
Frosty Winnipeg. It feels Bitcoiny. It absolutely does.
Of course it is. Yes,
but Bitcoin's worth a lot of money, so I think that might be where things are going as well. I'll be fascinated to see what this does to the traditional card market, because the card market went absolutely on fire throughout the pandemic and is still doing really well. But we are seeing more and more of a shift, shall we say, to the NFT market, certainly from the NBA. And I think that was just the start of what's to come. Obviously, as I'd love to. I mean, get me in on the NHL one, some Jets NFTs, and of course, the National Football League will probably eclipse everything once it gets going.
Yeah, I think people have a hard time wrapping their head around it because it's a digital thing and not a physical thing. And I say, like, look, man, like, why is a piece of paper with a picture of Wayne Gretzky on it worth so much? It is what you know, the value in it is what you see. And I mean, what you think it can be, and if you believe in it or not, and a lot of people do. And I'm having fun collecting them more, and I have learned a lot about the NBA players from dabbling in the Top Shot.
Well, just like fantasy football. I mean, people who join fantasy leagues and they know nothing. They just might have their own team, and the next thing you know, they're breaking down the Colts backfield depth chart and the fifth string receiver on teams that have been shaken up by injuries. So overall, it's positive. I'm interested in it. I haven't really got into it like you, but I'll probably dabble a little bit once we get into sports that I'm really into, particularly hockey and football. Do we want to get to a couple of these clips before we finish up the program? The Jalen Hurts after Monday Night Football. I mean, there's some. I thought Eli Manning was going to have the best lines of Monday night, but in defeat, Jalen Hurts had a pretty interesting one as well. Basically, dealing with how you deal with a very, very bad game, and that's exactly what the Eagles had on Monday, as they got pretty much destroyed by the Dallas Cowboys in most aspects of the game.
Yeah, here's the press conference with that quote you're referring to.
I take responsibility for that. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to learn from it. We're going to be a better team from it. I believe that. I truly believe that. You know, you take you a deuce, you don't sit there and look at it. You flush it and move on. We're going to flush it and move on.
So that, I mean,
oh wow.
I'm gonna disagree. I think you should look at it for health purposes. Have you ever heard of the?
Stop it.
Have you ever heard of the Bristol stool scale, Hustler? You can tell a lot. So
I had never heard about it until you told me about it a few years back, and now it's been etched in the back of my mind. Okay, and the other thing, not to go down any sort of big vax conversation, but we have made jokes about some of the holdouts, how they're doing some more research. Robin Lopez, who of course Brooke Lopez won the NBA championship with the Milwaukee Bucks, and Robin Lopez had one of the most hilarious quotes when he was asked. I'm not even sure what the original question was, but he's going to be doing some more research to make sure that his brother actually won the NBA championship. Check this one out.
I'm still not sure the Milwaukee's actually won the championship. I didn't watch. I wasn't there. I didn't watch the game myself. So I guess I'll go off a basis of there's got to be some kind of proof. I'm going to do my own research and figure out if they won it.
I guess
I laughed so hard when I saw that the first time.
Yeah, I forget he's asked something about his brother winning the championship, and yeah, he responded with he's got to do some more research. So NBA players were, it was media day, they were all hitting the podium. So that was
you know what? It is a big story. I mean, Canadian Andrew Wiggins has said that, he's holding out right now. That could mean he's missing games for the Golden State Warriors. And maybe the biggest story right now in the NBA, Kyrie Irving. I mean, he brought us his flat earth theories a few years ago, and is an incredibly talented player, but a serious there's a lot of drama that follows Kyrie. Let's just say that. He apparently is not getting vaccinated, and he could miss all of the Nets' home games this year. Say what you will about the situation. I mean, the amount of money that he'd be losing, but also, like, Kevin Durant opted out of every other option that he had to play with Kyrie and try and win a championship in Brooklyn. If he shuts it down for half of the season right now, you honestly wonder, I know Stephen A said, if that's the case, you got to trade him. I mean, they need people that are all in. And that, to me, is the big question about sports right now, regardless of your opinions on the vaccine. It's, are these players committed, and are they on the same level with the rest of their teammates, ready to do what they have to do to complete their jobs? And my God, if this goes into the regular season where Kyrie Irving, one of the biggest stars in the game, is missing half of the games, you just have to wonder what that does to the Nets going forward and what that does to Kevin Durant and his quest to win a championship outside of Golden State.
Yeah, and that's the rules in, New York and San Francisco. If you're working there, you have to be vaccinated. So I agree. They just said today that if you can't play because you're not vaccinated, you're not getting paid, which I think was implied to begin with. So, we'll see what happens. It would be a big blow again for the Warriors. They didn't have Wiggins for their home games. As you said, Kyrie in Brooklyn. And this is a storyline we're going to be watching as we approach the season. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, Mackenzie Blackwood in Jersey, one of the other players that's in the National Hockey League that's not there. And what was Bodie Wild, who wasn't going to get vaxxed with the Islanders? He got his plane ticket from Lou Lamoriello. He's being sent to Sweden to play this year because he's not going to get an opportunity to do it with the New York Islanders. All right, it's been a great show today. Let's give away these tickets. Shout out to everyone that entered in the YouTube chat by putting in ! tickets. If you're listening on the podcast, when you have an opportunity, join us live between 1 and 3. We'll often do some great giveaways with the people that are watching live through the YouTube channel. And also follow us on social media at Sports Talk WPG on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll also be doing some giveaways through our social media channels as well. And make sure to come by on Friday afternoon because, as we mentioned, the incredible merch we did with our friends at Canadian Club and Winnipeg Sports Talk is in. And I think we're going to have to give out a hoodie and maybe a T-shirt on Friday's show as well. And we'll do that with the marble race. And I think what we're going to be able to do is get everyone entered automatically through the YouTube channel by doing another command like we've just done with the tickets. Where are we at with the ticket giveaway?
Should I just give it away, or should I put them into some type of wheel spin or something, or just hit go? Hopefully this person's still in the chat.
Up to you. Up to you.
I'll just hit go right now because we're coming up against it.
Okay, sounds good.
It's going to pick a winner, and I'm not going to say it. We'll see. It's going to be in the chat.
Look into the chat. Who is our winner? Tell us, Streamlabs. Who's winning the tickets for today's? T. Kona Pauly has won a pair of tickets to the Winnipeg Ice home opener on Saturday night against the Brandon Wheat Kings. Pauly, nice work. It's great to see you're a winner. You've obviously been around quite often. So Pauly is great. Nice. It's all me. Yes, you're going to the game. What do we need him to do? Send us his email, Reem?
Yeah, Pauly, just DM me your email, and then we'll email you the tickets.
Perfect. Yeah, either DM or if you don't have Twitter, send us an email to at Winnipeg Sports Talk.
Pauly always asks me fantasy tips on DraftKings on Instagram DMs. So me and Pauly gotten pretty tight when talking about fantasy.
Right on. Okay, well, Pauly, congratulations. Folks, as I mentioned, no show tomorrow for the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. We will be back on Friday. We'll have a big marble race on Friday. I promise you that. Because we've got some incredible prizes from our friends at Canadian Club. We've been doing those going into Bomber game days. And maybe we'll have a few prizes for the marble race because I believe we'll have another pair of ice tickets. And we've got the new merch that we've done with our friends at Canadian Club as well. So Friday's show is going to be awesome. Ken Wiebe will join us on Friday. We'll have the latest on the Winnipeg Jets. And, of course, we'll get ready for the big Bomber game on Friday night between Winnipeg and the BC Lions. Thanks again to everyone for joining us and make us a part of your day. And a huge thank you to the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen, including our newest sponsor, Princess Auto, our friends at Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Canadian Club, Coolbet Canada, Assiniboia Downs, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, and the Nick and Nikki DQ Group. Great day for a blizzard, folks. Get out there, enjoy the weather. We'll be down in the 200s tonight, myself and Remis at the game, so maybe we'll see you at the intermission. Should be a good one, and we'll be back Friday afternoon to break it all down for you and get ready for a big weekend here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Have a great night, everyone.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.